Shall we pray? Father in heaven, we thank you for the blessings of this day. We ask your forgiveness, Lord, for causing you pain through our sinful behaviors. Moreover, we thank you for your unconditional love toward us. Help us to embrace your model by having unconditional love for each other. Please be with us in this afternoon's experience, and may each participant leave this forum recommitted to their vow to you and to their spouse and to their marriage. And so, God, we pray that you will guide every presenter and guide in every presentation today, and let your divine purposes be realized in the precious name of Jesus Christ, your Son and our Savior. Amen. A pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am certain that these words will bring back fond memories. I, X, take thee, Y, to be my wedded husband or wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do us part, according to God's holy ordinance. You can take a quick glimpse at your spouse and give them a broad smile even now. I am sure you will agree with me, however, that the enemy of man seeks to disrupt and derail our marriages from God's intention of until death do us part. But alas, his plan cannot succeed except we choose to allow it. And so I pray that each of you will benefit from the sessions today. And before you leave, you will hold each other's hands, husbands and wives. Hold each other's hands and renew your commitment with the words, I will have you. I will hold you until the end of time. And through the changes life rearranges, I will have you and I will hold you until the end of time. Welcome everyone to the special seminar today. Expect the Lord to show up and to recreate the joy of journeying together in marriage. It is my pleasure to now present to you our Director of Family Ministries, Prayer Ministries, and Public Affairs and Religious Liberty, our Director, Pastor Wayne Sampson.
Sister Mary, thank you so much to be sharing this platform with you this afternoon. And what a meaningful experience we anticipate with this marriage seminar, how to sustain intimacy during a time of crisis, more so how to come out of COVID-19 still married. This evening's program certainly will provide persons who are committed to their marriage and want their marriage to work and to enjoy and not simply to endure the marriage, to achieve just that. But you know, for us coming online with this program, there would have been a leadership that sees the need for this particular program to be had. There is our spiritual leader, Pastor Leslie Moses, who is certainly behind this program more than 100% now. And it's my privilege to call on him at this given point as he brings greetings to the participants of this program. Pastor Leslie Moses.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It is such a joy and a pleasure to be with you. My phone is just ringing there. Let me just get it off. It's such a joy and such a pleasure to be with you. My wife is handling it. Thank you, sweetheart. To be with you this evening, this afternoon, at this marriage seminar, Sustaining Intimacy in a Crisis. Of course, we have read and heard the research. Many families are in crisis. Many families are experiencing tremendous trouble because of the accessibility of the victim to the perpetrator. Many families are experiencing all types of trauma. I'm also happy to tell you that many families are experiencing renewed intimacy. Many families are experiencing the joy of being with their loved ones, you know, for a sustained period. Some of us didn't know what it felt like to be at home with our families for 2 months and 2 weeks. But we know now, and some of us made good use of that time. I trust God that you would be experiencing growth as a result of the challenges, and that as we participate in this seminar today, we would experience renewed growth and vitality in our marriage. I want to, on behalf of the administration of the South Caribbean Conference, thank Pastor Wayne Sampson, and excuse Phoenix there, folk. He's having a fun time. I want to thank Pastor Sampson on behalf of the administration for planning and for executing this seminar. I pray, God, that as we all participate, we would be the better for it. Thank you, Pastor Sampson, and God bless you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Pastor Moses. Thank you so much. You know, and as we looked on, and while Pastor Moses was talking, next to him was his wife, and certainly we extend a warm welcome to her just the same. Our leader is modeling what it is like and what it ought to be to have your spouse next to you as you function in this life. Facing challenges with your partner certainly can give to you great success. Sister Mary, you know, this program fits in nicely. It's pretty relevant as far as I'm concerned during this period of time when we are going through this COVID-19. You know, funnily, whether true or not, on the very onset of this virus, there was the thought, and Elder Moses just alluded to it, you know, that there would be a number of families that will go through some stressful experiences, pressure on the marriage, as it will, that many persons might very well have been unprepared for, or many persons, because of a poor marital relationship, may have been struggling and such alike, and many would have used this situation to get closer to each other. You know, I was just simply going through some statistics and some reports across the world, and I've noticed that already we have reports of spiking divorce rates across the world. In China, it is reported. In Australia, it is reported. In the UK, it is reported. We've seen the clash of conflict styles, resolutions, and such coming across in a very severe manner. And persons are struggling with that. Not only that alone, but as the pressure comes on, it's like the romance is also being squeezed. And therapists now are taking note that divorce, signals for divorce is certainly in the air. And it's to this given cause that this program is set up, where we want to pause, absorb the reality of the situation, but then to embrace with a divine authority our relationships, noting well that the marriage that we share, and I hope that is a belief that we all share, our marriages were ordained by God, and God wants us to have sustained intimacy, regardless of what comes along. Intimacy can be had, and we want to explore that this evening. As a matter of fact, the goal of this seminar is to help couples to come out of this crisis and any other crisis still married,
Right.
stronger,
Yes.
with added skills, understanding that love is not just a feeling of the heart. It is not just simply a decision of the mind. It is not just simply a behavioral response. As one marriage therapist will say, it involves all three models. It involves the cognitive intimacy, emotional intimacy, and behavioral intimacy. And so this evening, to expand on those areas in order for us to appreciate how we can go through this storm and come out of it still married and yea, even stronger, we have three individuals who are well positioned, qualified, and by the grace of God will bring to bear and share the information relevant, needed for each couple now to hold on to tenaciously, I should say, in order to meaningfully go through this COVID experience. Yes, as the challenges come, your response to it, your attitude to it can be vastly different. And at the end thereof, you can still, like Mary would have said on the onset, those beautiful words, I do, until we breathe our last breath. And so this evening session, this seminar has three sessions. One that deals with mutual trust and respect, the other deals with availability, and the third with response. As those three uh, areas of intimacy they are explored, as it were. And the very first presenter is one who is absolutely qualified to deal with this issue, you know, cognitive intimacy and how to share mutual trust and respect. And note you well, there is a chronological flow to this seminar, and there is a level of significance attached to each presentation. In order for you to appreciate the entire spread, you need to take note of each session rather closely. The first one deals with cognitive intimacy, uh, mutual trust and respect. And Dr. Kern Tobias, a family life educator in his own right, Dr. Tobias, will be conducting this one. It is my pleasure then to introduce to you the first presenter as he deals with mutual trust and respect, captivating cognitive intimacy, Dr. Kern Tobias.
Thank you very much, Pastor Sampson. It's my pleasure to be a part of this historic event. And I must also join my voice in congratulating the South Caribbean Conference for this significant activity. The presentation is going to be on the screen. So I am going to be sharing my screen with you. All right, so how to sustain intimacy through crisis. We're talking about cognitive or intellectual intimacy and mutual trust and respect. These are the aspects we will be treating with. But it's important to define what intimacy is, and it's right there. You can read along with your partner. Intimacy means a close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationship with another person, in this case, your spouse. So intimacy is that bond, that joining of hearts and joining of minds. My presentation will be the joining of minds. Intimacy is more about trust and understanding. We'll be getting a little more into this very important aspect of trust and respect. You know, it is near compulsive, the near compulsive need to share yourself with another person within a bond of trust. It tends to be manifested physically through affectionate touching and earnest participating in the welfare of the other party. Intimacy is not just about you. It is really about your partner, so that both parties, that's why mutual comes in there, both parties at the end of the experience of sharing, feel fulfilled, feel enriched, feel empowered. You know, intimacy is sometimes humorously referred to as intimacy. Intimacy. It is, however, better explained as knowing and being known. It's interesting, the Bible said they were both naked and were not ashamed. And very often we associate that nakedness to the physical, romantic, erotic experience of intimate love and sexual experience. But that also has a bearing on the cognitive aspect of intimacy, knowing and being known, being naked, being transparent, being able to share yourself to your partner in a manner that allows yourself to be better understood and also to better understand your partner. It seems that at the core of many marital dysfunctions is the root of a lack of knowing. Simply put, there is a lack of intimacy. The cognitive aspect of intimacy is about knowing. So cognitive or intellectual intimacy is sharing whatever you are thinking and sharing your skills, sharing whatever you are thinking and your skills. Intellectual intimacy can be your hopes, sharing your dreams, your fears, and experiences with the assurance that I will be understood, with the assurance that I would be seen as real, and there will be no fake, there will be no judging. I am happy to share who I am, and you can help me to be better. We can grow together. See, when your partner shares who he or she is on the inside and connect intellectually with you, that your partner is trusting you with the secrets, and it's so common that two people are married, and yes, they're in the same house, but they can be strangers because there is not a mental structure to share. There is not a mental template of how I should live with my partner. And especially if a person may have come from a dysfunctional family, that person may not know how to create or craft that mental component of a positive outlook on marriage and on relationships. So intimacy is manifested in 5 overlapping areas of life: the physical, that will be dealt with this afternoon, the emotional, sexual, spiritual, and mental. That's what I am focusing on, mental. When all 5 areas are being reciprocally known in a relationship, a couple experiences deep marital satisfaction. Often at the beginning of our marriage, we believe that we are experiencing each of these areas to the fullest, which can easily allow the marriage to slide into stagnation. And so that you have taken the time to be a part of this seminar, which is proven to really enrich marriage. This seminar, just having a family life education, it can create for you the same positive effect on your marriage as if both of you as a couple would go to a therapist and spend that hour and a half by yourselves with that counselor, with a therapist. This afternoon, you can self-regulate. Nobody has to know what is going on in your relationship. You can create for your relationship a spurt growth, an enrichment. And the crisis, instead of making you bitter, can make you better if it is viewed from a positive, cognitive, intimate perspective. And so the beautiful reality is that intimacy can be nurtured and deepened throughout the entirety of your marriage. It's a walk. And he said, you have entered a school, there will never be a graduation. I remember there's a young man, hearing pastors saying that you are entering a school, there will never be a graduation, because it is deepened through the entirety of your marriage. So the question that has to be asked and answered is, what role do trust and respect play in the context of intimacy? What role do trust and respect play in the context of intimacy? So let's define trust. Trust is defined as having confidence, faith, or hope in someone. Having confidence, faith, or hope in someone. So husbands, as you think of your wife, do you have trust in her, confidence, faith, hope in her? Wife, based on the journey so far, could you say that you have trust in your husband, confidence, faith, or hope in him? That's the defining, the definition of trust. Respect, on the other hand, is defined as a feeling of deep admiration for someone elicited by his or her abilities, qualities, or achievements. So you respect your husband, you respect your wife based on the fact that he or she is seeking to improve himself, have outstanding qualities of love and affection and empathy and understanding and neutrality, things like, of course, achievements. You're trying to be the best that you can be. And so you are respected for who you are as a person in God, made after the image and likeness of God, and you are seeking to be the best person that you can be. The whole matter of differentiation, or where you are developing the masculinity or the femininity, you are really working hard and being the best you, so that this merger, this marriage, this diet can be sweet. So it's all about individuation, being the best individual, so that when the two come together, they can indeed make a beautiful whole. So some of the elements of trust are as follows. Number one, and it's not exhaustive, we are just going to share 5 in this context. Be true to your word. Follow through with your actions. You see, the point of building trust is for others to believe what you say. Your partner must believe what you say. Building trust requires not only keeping the promises that you make, but also not making promises that you are not able to keep. Keeping your word shows what you expect from your partner, and in turn, your partner is more likely to treat you with respect, developing further trust in the process. Be a person of your word. That's how trust is built. Secondly, communicate effectively. You see, building trust is not without risk. It involves allowing both of you to take risks to prove your trustworthiness. To navigate this, effective communication is key. And that's what we spoke about, knowing and being known. To express who you are and what you would like to disclose about yourself, you have to be able to speak effectively to your partner. And of course, listen actively as well. So communicate effectively and listen actively. It helps. It takes time to build trust. Building trust is a daily commitment. Do not make the mistake to expect too much too soon. Build the trust by taking small steps and commitments, and then grow as you feel more at ease. Put trust in you and put trust in, and you will get trust in return. Of course, depending on what stage of your marriage, if it is that you are still at the honeymoon stage, those first couple of years of your marriage, then this is going to be, a very exciting phase. But as you walk together, as you build that relationship, you'll realize that it is taking small steps. And every day, as this little chorus says, every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. Every day with my partner is sweeter. And, when we were just married, we heard about those folks who were married for 30 and 40 years saying, they are at the phase of life where they're close to heaven. And we couldn't understand that, because, wow, what is better than the honeymoon phase when it's so erotic and romantic? But the intimacy is really about knowing. And in the honeymoon phase, you're not able to know as much, even though there is so much to enjoy. But it is all about a mental understanding of who your partner is, and it takes time. Also, be honest. Always be honest. The message you convey should always be the truth. If you are found to be dishonest, your trustworthiness will be diminished. It's such a beautiful thing when a partner could know, I can trust my partner. Wherever he goes, wherever she goes, I can trust him or her because of his or her honesty. I've never found him or her, and even though there may have been a slip here or there, we say, admit your mistakes. See, when you attempt to hide mistakes, your partner will feel disconnected. But by being open, you show your vulnerable side, and it's amazing that this builds trust. When you can Put your hands up instead of trying to argue and justify and make excuses why I had to do this and why the number was on my phone and why the picture was there. You know, just to admit, look, that was a silly mistake. I don't understand why and how, and your partner is able to quickly forgive. Trust is built by admitting mistakes and moving forward. Of course, we can go on and on in the aspect of building trust. However, we will move to the next aspect, how to practice trust and respect in your marriage relationship. You know, Andrea Bonor, licensed clinical psychologist, professor, and author, she says, trust is necessary for emotional intimacy, and it's necessary for a healthy, close relationship. It is much easier and faster to lose trust than it is to build it up. She continues, respect is very important. It's an important role in trust. She quotes that one of the most emotionally enduring ways we can be harmed by our partners is if they belittle us or look at us with condescension or contempt, because a lack of respect destroys trust. We said that respect is really admiring your partner, admiring, looking at your partner for who he or she is, what the qualities, the capabilities, the values that person brings to the relationship. And so some practical tips to build respect in marriage. Number one, esteem each other. Remember, we are dealing with the mental aspect of intimacy, the cognitive aspect, the intellectual aspect. In your mind, you must have a very healthy esteem for your partner. In fact, Philippians 2, 3, and 4 clearly indicates, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others, of your partner. If you were to esteem your partner, really look for the positive. Sometimes we are negatively oriented. You know, we have a negative frame of reference, and instead of looking for your partner in a positive way, as we say, looking at the glass half full, it's so easy to see the glass half empty, and negative thoughts can come in, and we criticize and we condemn, and we, you know, the one day that the food was burnt, you know, we make a whole lot of fuss over it, not realizing that so many days it was just perfect. Esteem your partners, the qualities, what he or she brings to the relationship, and you'd be amazed how that will filter into the other aspects of the intimate life, your intimate life. Express your feelings in a functional and helpful way. In other words, be positive about your feelings. The word of God says in Colossians 4:6, let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Very often in the marital relationship, in this intimate relationship, in this cognitive and intellectual intimacy, it is not just what you say. Very often it is how you say what you say. And Paul says, hey, just as how salt seasons food and makes it palatable and enjoyable, then depending on the tone of voice you use and the facial expression will go a long way in building up the mental frame, that positive frame of reference towards you because of the way you relate. Third, relate with reciprocity. Be willing to give as well as to receive. Matthew 7:12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. If you do not want it for yourself, then you don't want to give it to your partner. As I close, I just love this beautiful quotation from the book Adventist Home, page 422. It says, pleasant voices, gentle manners, and sincere affection that finds expression in all the actions, together with industry, neatness, and economy, make even a hovel the happiest of homes. The Creator regards such a home with approbation. Yes, my uh, my friends, couples, your home can be a much happier place if you would develop the discipline of cognitive or intellectual intimacy, where trust and respect can be the hallmark of your relationships. God bless you all.
Thank you, Pastor Tobias, for such an informative session. I want to remind all participants that you use the Q&A, question and answer, to have your questions answered. So I will start you off. And of course, we are expecting to see some questions coming through. Right, Pastor Sampson?
Oh, yes. Yes, we do.
So, Pastor Tobias, go ahead, Pastor Sampson.
And there is one that came by. It was not literally on the AQ, but it came. And it's a question, Pastor Dr. Tobias. You know, you spoke about mutual trust and respect, that the cognitive intimacy that relationships ought to really have in order to move on in a positive way. Where, as it were, and I'm putting my own words attached to the question now, where a graveyard is created for another person, so the person can share self without having fear that they will be judged and such the like. During this time of COVID-19, where families or couples are now demanded to face common goals, but each of them may have different ideas, expectations, and values about that same goal, what will be your advice to those individuals then?
Well, common goals can be short term or medium term or long term. So if it's a goal that is just to ride out the COVID situation, you know, you have to collaborate, and that's what we said, communicate, share. It's all about talking, looking at the pros and cons, and allowing for a consensus. And if it is that you can't achieve consensus, then you may want to do like what you are doing this afternoon. You know, get your trusted counselor, and you know, the WhatsApp is a very good way. People are calling and getting good counsel and good advice. So that's another way. And of course, we always say the good old prayer practice. You know, let's leave it alone and let's pray about it and come back tomorrow. We don't necessarily have to solve it tonight if we don't have all the resources. That's some of the ways that you can deal with that situation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. And here comes a similar question to what I was going to ask. If before COVID-19, there was a lack of trust and there was the practice of dishonesty, years of dishonesty, how do you get this trust and this respect now in just 2 months after years of having that negative experience?
Like we said, it's a slow process. And so the first thing is to admit, you know, come to a point of admission that I have made mistakes. In fact, what I have recognized and counsel young couples on, if it is that you really want to build trust, begin to curse yourself to your partner. The mistake that people make is trying to justify themselves. But if you begin to condemn yourself and say, I don't understand why I had to be so harsh, you know, as I reflect on our journey, I realize that I have not been as fair to you or as reasonable to you. You know, I was always out finding things to do and was hardly at home. And look at how COVID has given us an opportunity. If you were to condemn yourself to your partner, you'd be amazed how your partner will quickly gravitate towards understanding, because the big thing is understanding. And so that's one of the ways. And just allow your partner to share, because sometimes we justify, the person is trying to share how they feel and we stop them from talking, but let them talk. Let them share how they feel and try to understand what they're saying, because being known, knowing and being known. And so you can only know if you listen, and you can be known if you talk. So but it's a slow, long haul. It's not going to happen overnight.
But what about in the instance where the spouse, the partner, is incapable of communicating or might just not want to communicate? And this is another question that has been asked. So how do you get the person? How do you prompt the person? How do you encourage the person to share and to communicate?
Well, the family altar, because this is a Christian home, and some of these problems are best solved at the foot of the cross. So that if it is that you have not been in the habit of communicating, and you are now, you have the time and you have the opportunity, family worship would be a nice way to start. Take up the book Adventist Home. Let's read. Let's read some other, good book on family life and discuss. These things, this is very hard. And that's the reason why you go to a therapist to help in the process. Again, I say, if it's very difficult, you could agree, could we talk to somebody about this? And the WhatsApp, the Zoom, it's a good way now of doing that kind of stuff. But that's the long haul. And once there's a willingness on the part of both parties, God is going to perform that miracle.
Another question, and I'm amending it a bit. So you might have some issues, and in your estimation, it is better for both yourself and your spouse that the information not be divulged. Should there be secrets in marriage? Or can you withhold some bits of information to protect the marriage?
It depends on what it is. There are some, Mrs. White gives the counsel, and of course the Bible as well. There are some offenses that may be between yourself and God, that, God and you go to God. But if it is that something has been done that is affecting the relationship, your partner knows about it, then you really want to confess to your partner. So one has to determine what category that offense is in. You don't necessarily share everything. Some things you just take to God, depending on what it is.
So we have covered the questions, and looking at the time, because we did allocate a time for questions. Pastor, we want to entertain any more questions? Pastor Samson?
Based on the brevity of time that we are functioning with, Pastor Dr. Tobias would have meaningfully handled the situation. Note you well, if persons have other questions, they can be posted, and if we have to respond directly to those individuals, but not necessarily on the platform this afternoon, we need to move on to the other. And certainly, Pastor Dr. Tobias, thank you for sharing with us, and I trust that the couples who are logged in right now come to understand that this component of intimacy, the cognitive intimacy, is rather crucial, where you become, as it were, the audience one for another. Where they feel safe enough, and I love the term, they feel safe enough to emotionally die, knowing that with that death, there will be a good burial. There got to be mutual trust there, and there got to be mutual respect there, and thank you so much for sharing with us along that line. And I also appreciate the fact that it's a process. Many persons believe, well, because we have encountered this particular challenge, it is all over. Sister Mary asked a question about coming into this, you may discover that there are unfinished business in relationship, but that doesn't mean that the relationship has to end. There is a way out, and you would have offered us just that. So you can sustain intimacy. Yes, intimacy can be sustained. It can truly be sustained, but into me, you see, do you want to see what is inside there is the question now, really. Thank you so much, Dom.
And before I go, and before I get off the set, I want to pay tribute to a young lady who helped me with the PowerPointing, Onessa Hughes. I'm sure you would know her from somewhere.
Yeah,
Onessa Hughes.
That's right.
She was the one that gave a beautiful face to this presentation. I must pay tribute to her, really.
Thank you. Okay, Vanessa. Thank you.
Vanessa.
All right, Vanessa. That's right. All right, Sister Mary, back to you now.
I want all the couples to take a moment, hold each other's hand, look into each other's eye. Now I can't see everybody, but be honest with yourself and with your God, and you must say to each other, we can do this, we will do this, and we must do this.
We will do this, and we must do this.
All for God's glory. Thank you very much. And so we continue. It is my pleasure to introduce someone I consider to be a friend, sometimes a mentor, because she challenges you to think beyond. But I want to introduce to you at this time Mrs. Shirley Leslie John. She's a member of the San Fernando Estate Church, and she said she is married to Eunice John, her co-partner in ministry and the love of her life. We pause for effect, the love of her life. She's the mother of 2 adult daughters and holds a Bachelor of Science in Behavioral Science. She is a Master of Science candidate in counseling psychology with emphasis on marriage and the family. She currently specializes in cognitive behavior therapy. She's a certified counselor in critical incident stress management. She's affiliated to an NGO that works closely with survivors of domestic violence. Sheila is a motivational speaker to audiences of women, young singles, and married couples, as well as PTAs. She's the managing director of S. John and Associates Limited. She also holds certification as a peer support counselor. And she was previously attached to Petrotrans EAP Services Limited. She carries with her 16 years of experience, and she as well is a member of the Women's Ministries Advisory Council of South Caribbean Conference. And her focus areas are grief, marriage and family counseling, and her motto is represent. Ladies and gentlemen, to take us through the next session on availability, what it means to be available in the context of our marital relationships, and how to make oneself available, Sister Shirley Leslie John. The time is now yours.
Hi, good evening, afternoon, everyone. Mary, thank you so very much. Well, I was listening to Pastor Tobias, and he would have done well to introduce my aspect of it, because I'm dealing with the emotional intimacy, and we are looking at what it means to be emotionally available in the context of marriage and the relationship, as well as I would try to identify to each of us how we can make ourselves available in the marriage relationship. And we are talking in the context of sustaining our marriage, having a beautiful relationship after COVID. And COVID in itself, it brings a number of challenges to us. COVID provides for us the challenges of the loss of jobs. It provides challenges where our income has been reduced, and in some cases, the income is gone. Then there's the fear attached to, will we contract the disease? And if we do, will we die? Will our relative die? So we have all of these issues surrounding COVID-19. Then the biggie is having to be with our partner. Having to be with our partner, in some cases, 24/7, and this in itself brings other factors. We are looking at here, as I have it, the pandemonium of the pandemic. We have challenges with whose job will take precedence. So we both have Zoom meetings, but then we have the children who are also in Zoom classes. So who will have to forego their meeting to deal with supervising the children who are in classes? Then we have, like in my case, I am very vigilant as it pertains to ensuring that you practice all the safety mechanisms, to ensure that we keep the virus away from the household. So you have that, some cases where there may be excessive vigilance, and we think that our partner is not vigilant enough. Then, of course, we have the biggie, which is finances. What is important to spend on? What should we not spend on? And we have here time in each other's presence. And at this point, I want to take the time to recognize our frontline workers who, they have to now leave their families and they are looking COVID-19 dead on in the face. We have to be eternally grateful to them for taking on this task. And I hope that even among us right now, we have some of you, and we are saying thank you that you have been taking the time, even from your job, to work on your marriage. So these are the things that the pandemic will bring to us. And in preparation, the preambles that would have been provided, Pastor would have mentioned Anne Holland, and she is the director of the Australian Institute of Family Studies. She expressed concern over the fact, and I think Mary would have alluded to it, that there are some marriages that are already quite unstable. And with the added pressure of COVID-19, we are looking at marriages that are very likely heading to the divorce court, where couples would eventually go apart. Now, at the crux of all of this is one word, and that is conflict. And you'll see here that I am looking at the three suitcases of life, because in each suitcase, we have some conflict. My favorite author is Fernando Zabala, and in his book, In Spite of Our Differences, I'll Marry You Again, he says that the closer that we get to an individual, the more conflict that we will have. And I will prove this to you. You see, if you all can reflect with me, you would remember that when you met your partner, you had what we call the congruent life. And this is your suitcase number one. Now we are coming into a marriage to try to come together to become one flesh. All right? And we are coming with all our idiosyncrasies. We have situations where, I have my insecurities, I have my core beliefs and all of these things. And here I am coming with you to become one flesh. So we come struggling along, and you can probably visualize it in your mind. We are both coming with our suitcases into this marriage. In the first suitcase, we will have those things that are easy breezy. And it's the common factors, the things that we are compatible on. So for example, now I love to eat sweet bread with peanut butter. And my husband may enjoy the same thing, so that, you are wow. And some of you ladies out there, you can well imagine telling your friends, because we talk a lot, and we are saying to our friends, imagine he likes this too, and for me, I was wowed when I discovered that Eunice sings Love Found a Way. And for those of you who heard him sing it before, he does a fantastic job, if I do say so myself. And that is my favorite song. So that this is the congruent life for the first suitcase. So we enjoy it. There's no problem. We all become lovey-dovey. Yes, I'm happy in the marriage. Then we go to the second suitcase. And this is where we have little things propping up, or what we call the complementary lifestyle. We have differences in character, yes, but those differences can be workable. So I would be looking at Home and Garden television, and Eunice would look at all the news channels. But you know what? We can complement. Or we can look at our hobbies. We both love to play Scrabble, but he plays Scrabble competitively. He studies the Scrabble dictionary, whereas I play for fun. But before we end up fighting over this, we decided, you know what? We will get a timer so that we can both work with the timer, and therefore we will enjoy the game of Scrabble. So we complement each other. And in this suitcase, you will find the factors that will allow you to grow as an individual as well as a couple. Of course, once we manage these very simple conflicts that would arise from time to time. We move on to the third suitcase, and this is what we call the conflictive life. Now you see the word popping up there, conflict. This is the drama suitcase, and this is the suitcase that everybody protects, because in here are the hurts, the core belief, this is who we are. And it is where the discomfort, Pastor Tobias would have spoken about getting to know you better. These are the things that hold who I really am. It's not that I'm holding secrets from you, but as we get closer, it is inevitable that these things now will show their faces. And in here, if this suitcase is not handled well, we are seeing that the differences can generate tension. They have the potential to cause clashes and frustration. And it requires that both parties work together and make the necessary changes. If not handled well, this is the suitcase that causes marriages to be destroyed. And so we are working to ensure that we handle the third suitcase. Now, again, my favorite author, he said that conflict in marriage has a function. And you'll be like, what? We fighting and there's a function? Yes, the conflicts that we encounter, they are really not good nor that bad. They are just simply incidents that, if managed well, can represent opportunities to strengthen the married life. So, as I said, conflict is neither good nor bad, it just is. And it is the acid test for our marriages. It allows us to know our spouses better. And you know what? It's like those flashing amber lights. It tells you whether or not there's danger above. And the beauty about conflict is that it can open the door to intimacy. And we are hearing the word intimacy very frequently. Now, looking at the topic of discussion, for me, it is emotional availability. And looking at this, we see that it is sharing ourselves with our person with the aim of developing what? Authentic connection. And it is making yourself reachable. I am available so that it is easy for you to come to me. And it is allowing yourself to feel deeply and communicate all the feelings that you are experiencing with your loved one. So you see, we are sort of struggling because Pastor Tobias would have already mentioned some of these. And when we look at emotions, he would have spoken about the cognitive, and we are saying cognitive is actually the process of that the information received goes through. Emotions, however, those are the feelings that come with the information. And so we are looking at things like happiness, sadness, etc. When we speak about intimacy and emotional intimacy, we recognize that there are things that affect it. And again, piggybacking on some of what Pastor Bias would have mentioned, he said that we must build trust. And we are seeing here that if trust is not present, then it's difficult for us to be emotionally available. And these are the things that causes us to be uncomfortable in being available. And being available is required for us to deal with our conflicts. Feelings of unlovability, fear of acceptance. And believe it or not, there are people out there, even though they are in a marriage, they are still fearful of really falling in love. And you're saying, how is that possible? Because reality is we get married for a number of different reasons. And so falling in love, actually opening yourself to be seen and to be loved by somebody, we are fearful of that. And these things can hinder our relationship. The author Ken Benson puts it nicely when he said, if I anticipate that you are going to reject me, then I'm going to remain less emotionally invested in you. If deep down I feel inadequate and fear I don't deserve love, then my instincts tell me that eventually you're going to find out about me, realize that I'm not good enough, then you are going to break my heart. And because I have these concerns, I will not make myself emotionally available. So I have a partner and we have an issue. I want you to be emotionally available. These are some of the things that I don't practice. So for conflict resolution styles, the thing that prevents intimacy would be those factors that talk to, it would be the styles through which I deal with my conflict. So I would be evasive, or I would compete, We believe that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose, or that there has to be a tie. So we try to negotiate around the conflict. But ideally, this is from David Brown, and it can be found in his book, Are You Ready to Tie the Knot? And it is saying that the best way to deal with our conflict is for us to cooperate. In this way, we look into the issues that each of us are challenged with, and we go from there. Then we have John Gottman, who is known as a very renowned researcher on on married relationship, and he has conducted research on thousands of couples. And he said, if you have any one of these factors, if you practice any of these behaviors, then you know that your marriage is heading for the rocks. If you criticize your partner, you attack them instead of the problem. If you practice disdain by belittling them, if you are defensive so that you are not taking responsibility for your action, if you stonewall, and ladies, we are good at stonewalling. So we get vexed because what is said, we didn't like it, so we just clam up, we have nothing to say. And I love to term it, what happens now is the partner begins to have a monologue because nobody is responding to him. And Gottman is saying that any of these that is present in your marriage, you are likely to be in a marriage that is on its way to being dissolved, or you are not enjoying a happy marriage. And what is at the core of all of this? How we manage conflict. So that we are looking at emotional availability, which is essential in managing our conflict. And Gilbert says that having a soft heart in a cruel world is courage, it's not weakness. And just like children, emotions heal when they are heard and validated. So, how do I become emotionally available? And we are saying cooperating and collaborating to resolve conflict yields results that satisfies all involved and avoid the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Becoming emotionally available means that I am going to be prepared to evaluate myself and my beliefs about our relationship. And this is a hard thing to do because it means that I now have to find out what is preventing me from trusting you. I have to ask myself, do I deserve my partner's love and affection? And work around these things. Come to terms with exactly what my issues are. Then, when I do that, I begin to see my partner and my needs and feelings as equally significant. There's that tendency to discredit or to minimize one's feelings, and tell me if you've ever said this statement to your partner. So that is what you're feeling so about? That little thing? No, it may seem to be a little thing for you, but for your partner, it is a big thing. And we are saying here that becoming emotionally available means that I will show empathy and compassion for your feelings, all right? And I will hold you close and know that you need to be held, to have and to hold. So we are seeing it. It means then that I will honor my vows. And Mary spoke about our vows. It means that when I am coming and you see my big suitcase number 3, you will not decide to run away. You will not decide to find somebody else because you have vowed to me that I will forsake all others. So that we have to now delve into that suitcase because again, before God and these persons here present, I promise that COVID-19 or no COVID-19, a job or no job, I will love you until death do us part. It is important to make time for your partner, and being emotionally available calls for this. For those persons who are working during the pandemic, sometimes being available or making time means that you would tell everybody, listen, Olia, I need to just go away for a bit. And calling your partner to tell them, hi, I just wanted to hear your voice. And I could tell you it works. Listen, when I am at work and you not call me for nothing. He just said, Shills, I'm calling to see how you're doing. People, it is as though any little stress that I was experiencing goes away. And that is what that one call does. So that make that time for your partner because it builds the relationship. It makes you feel secure in the relationship. Work on taking responsibility for your emotions and commit to opening up. So I am uncomfortable. And my mentor, Pastor Sampson, he used the phrase and I smiled, make the space easy for your partner to die emotionally, where they are not afraid to be vulnerable. And this is committing to your partner, committing to opening up, allowing them to share from the position that I care. Always communicating that you care. And then being attentive to your partner's emotions. Sometimes you look at your partner's expression and they are upset. And you ask, everything is okay? And they say, yes, everything is okay. But the face is shouting, I am angry. So that based on the expressions, you have a good idea of the emotions. So that when approaching, because you are familiar and you are attentive to the emotions of your partner, then you can go, honey, whatever caused this, I am here to fix it. And if it's me, I'm sorry. That will soften the face because our Bible says a soft answer turneth away wrath. And finally, like Pastor Tobias, I leave you with the words of our favorite author, Ellen White, again in the book Adventist Home, where she says, husband and wife, learn about each other's character as it was possible. As it was impossible to learn in their previous association. This is a most critical period in their experience. The happiness and usefulness of their whole future life depend upon their taking a right course now. Often they discern it. I'm not seeing the
They discern in each other unsuspected weaknesses and defects.
Good, thanks.
But the hearts that love has united will discern excellences also heretofore unknown.
Right. So
let us all seek to discover the excellencies rather than the defects.
Yes, so let us all seek to discover the excellences rather than the defects. So COVID-19 is in the air, but we've understood that it is how we manage these conflicts that would determine whether our relationships would die or whether our relationship would live. Whether after all of this has happened, we are still happily married, still together, loving each other and stronger. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Sheila. Being available and what it entails, that is what the session dealt with. And Sister Sheila, there are 3 questions that are coming at you. And I know our time is quickly going by, but will you please relate to each of those as quickly as you possibly can? Number 1, if one of the partners is not allowed to express himself or herself as he or she would like to, always being hurried or belittled when stating opinions or just dialoguing, how do you communicate to your partner that you feel disrespected? Question number 1.
If one of the partners is not allowed to express his or herself as he or she would like to, always being hurried or belittled, when stating opinions or just dialoguing, how do you communicate to your partner that you feel disrespected? And the last part of the question sort of answers the question. So you express to your partner how you feel. You refrain from saying things like, you are making me feel this way. So that you say to your partner, you know, I feel disrespected when this happens. Sometimes we also need to look at when we are choosing to have the conversation, when we are choosing to express what we are being expressed. And then too, we also have to take into consideration whether our partner is uncomfortable in treating with the conversation. So it means therefore that you probably would have some work to do in preparing the path or the bed for your partner to lie on, where addressing the situation in a non-confrontational manner can encourage him or her to express freely.
All right, thank you so much. Now, question number 2, and you alluded to 3 suitcases. Are these suitcases operating in a chronological order at different stages in the relationship, or can they be unpacked at any stage in the marriage? That's the
Okay,
question.
interesting question. No, the reality is, these suitcases will unpack themselves really, yeah? So that as we become uncomfortable, as we are going through the relationship, what you will find is that at the initial stage, we are comfortable sharing about who we are. All right. And this is the first step, the suitcase 1. Because here I am, this is how I would understand who you are. This is what would prepare me to want to even form a relationship with you. And once we get into that relationship, then you might see the other factors come out. Now, for some people, based on what you spend your time doing in your relationship, if you spend time talking and if you are both mature and comfortable enough to deal with the hardcore issues of life, then you may find that these suitcases are dealt with. We begin to talk to the issues even prior to or in preparation for marriage. Again, there's the level of maturity that is required and how comfortable you are in expressing yourself. So that normally what you find is that the issues surrounding, as we have the conflictive issues in suitcase 3, they may rear their heads at different points in the relationship, but we quickly evade it. We avoid having the discussion, all right? And we use defensive mechanisms like anger and evasion in order to not address these issues until it hits us in the face. And this is what we call pushing things under the rug until we trip on it. Okay, does that answer the question?
Thank you so much. And we take the final question for this segment. And it quickly runs. And if my spouse believes that the best way to keep the peace in the marriage is to evade all emotional conversations, how do I help them feel more comfortable to face issues? Because this piece could just be a cover for unresolved issues. Take about a minute to do this one first, please.
I would have thought that outlining how to be emotionally available would have addressed it. And a good idea is to begin by dealing with issues that you are comfortable with, you are uncomfortable with. So by sharing your issues and seeking your partner's comfort and intimacy, this can help them to open up to share their own. Again, evaluate what I'm doing. Evaluate, and it may also call for the cognitive or the psychological intimacy to enter. What is the core? What is the underlying factor that is preventing my partner from expressing? So it calls for that openness, and you may be the one to initiate it. Of course, with prayer, if this doesn't work, then we always have therapy sessions and marriage counselors that could help us.
Okay, thank you so much, Sister Shirley. And participants, you may note well that we are not in a position to answer all the questions that are coming at us now. We are doing our best to relate to as many as we possibly can, but our time is quickly slipping by. Your felt needs or your questions, when we note them, will determine how we move on thereafter this particular seminar. But thank you very much for the questions on this particular session. So far, what we should have noted that to sustain intimacy during a crisis, step one, there has to be mutual trust and respect. And oh, how beautifully that would have been shared with us by Dr. Tobias. And then, secondly, you got to make yourself available. In order for that to happen, you've got to make yourself available. Where I see active listening certainly coming into play there, attending, inviting, and ensuring that you get your partner's message well. Make yourself available. Don't allow someone else to become the graveyard for your partner. You be that individual now. And so we move on to session 3. That's our last session for this evening. And we're dealing here now with being responsive. Session 1 dealt with mutual trust and respect. Session 2, being available. Now, session 3, being responsive. And Pastor St. Hills, also a family life counselor, will be handling this session for us. And Pastor St. Hill, the time is now yours as we deal with the third session, being available, where behavioral intimacy will be.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be on the platform and sharing conversations with all the dignitaries who are professionals in this area. Happy to be able to share what I can share with you relating to the area of responsiveness in relationships. As I get ready to share my screen, I just want us to remember that we are talking about the issue of intimacy, and realize that intimacy, there are different segments to intimacy, and of course all are not compartmentalized, that they are separated from each other. So there's a line that runs through all of them. So even as we talk about cognitive and emotional, we also talk about behavioral, and we relate to some of the same concepts of all of them as we relate to this area of responsiveness in relationships. Now, responsiveness in relationships, we want to relate to this. And Gable and Reyes says that responsive relationships are where partners convey understanding, validation, and caring. I want us to note that well. Responsive relationships are where partners convey understanding, validation, and caring. Now, in order to convey meaning and to respond appropriately, then there's some knowledge that you need to have about your partner. You need to understand certain things before you respond, or else you'd be responding inappropriately. And so we want to understand some of the concepts and some of the ideas that's so relevant as to knowing our partner fully so that we can respond accurately to their needs. Responsiveness, it contributes to the couple's experience. And if you look at a responsive couple responding to each other's deeper emotional needs behaviorally, you realize that time and thought would be taken to really get to know the person. Responsive partners, I must say, it is not about just being a romantic person, just being nice partners to know where to carry the person. You go to expensive dinners and places of entertainment. That's not what we are talking about responsive in terms of being a responsive partner. It's really about the ability to react in a more vulnerable, emotionally charged moment. How can I react in a particular moment that is that is emotionally charged and is vulnerable? I need to know, I need to understand what is necessary to respond. Spouses are warm, sensitive to their partner's feelings, right? And will make their partner feel comfortable, valued, listened to, and understood, right? In this global pandemic, There are different levels of anxiety between not only in the given community, but also between couples, so that couples experience different levels of anxiety between themselves. And that's a reality. It affects everyone, including your spouse. And besides the public order of putting on masks, sometimes there are masks that stays on in the relationship. So you go out in the public and you have to wear the mask. And so, but sometimes you come home and there is this mask that you keep wearing and you're not able to disclose to your partner, to disclose to your wife as to what's happening. You stonewall, or you just decide, let me watch TV, let me just handle myself and do whatever I feel to, because you are continually wearing that mask and not wanting to open yourself to say exactly what's going on. I want us to understand that we need to express our anxiety to our spouse. Maybe at night, maybe at a particular time, it's important that you find a time to express your anxiety, how you feel about what is happening, how you feel about this lockdown, how you feel about the future. It's important that you express that, because your spouse may not know. And you express to each other so that you can understand each other, so that you can respond to each other the way the person expects you to respond to them. And it means that the deeper levels of communication need to take place, so that the communication level where you have small talk and just facts, just sharing of facts, that's not sufficient for that kind of disclosure. It requires deeper level communication, communicating at a deeper level, so that you have that kind of understanding as to exactly what's happening to your partner, so that you can know how to respond appropriately. So you want to acknowledge that both of you handle these things differently. You want to acknowledge that we may handle it differently. My wife may handle her anxiety different from how I would handle it. And now we need to communicate that so that I can be able to relate to her. Be a safe haven for your partner. That was said over and over. And I want to emphasize it again, because you want to just provide that safe place so your partner can just share with you, can offload and talk with you, and to be able to relate to you appropriately. Do a daily check-in with your partner. What can I do to make this better? How can I help? How can I help? Ask. Don't be afraid to ask. You need to ask so that you can get the appropriate response. Ask, how can I help you today? Does my behavior affect my partner? So I'm doing some introspection now. I am doing some things, but it may affect my partner negatively. And I need to understand, what am I doing? Because we are in this thing together. We are in a crisis situation. We are all going through some anxiety, and I don't want to put added burden on my partner. So I would need to ask, how does my behavior affect my partner? How does it affect my partner? And it means that I have to learn to be flexible. I have to learn that when she tells me, in case of my wife, when she tells me what is happening, I have to learn to be able to make some adjustments, emotional adjustments, to be able to, and so that I can tend to her, I can relate to what her needs are. It's important that we know that we have to make an effort to engage your partner. Now, it's easy to entertain yourself. Maybe you look at Facebook, you entertain yourself in so many different ways, but it takes that extra effort to engage your partner to ensure that he or she is okay. And so we need to be able to do that, even though it takes a little more effort to do so. I want to look at this as crossing over the bridge. Cross over the bridge, and from your partner's side, see your own behavior. This can keep you humble and human, so that you are on one side of the bridge, your partner is on the other side. You need to enter your partner's side and look at your behavior. How am I relating to this situation? How am I relating to her? And that information is going to keep you humble, because you realize that, was I doing that really? Was I relating to her in such a way? I wasn't aware. And that's only when you can only do that when you cross over the bridge and look at from your partner's side and look at your own behavior. Now, I'll repeat some of the things that were said because it's important to emphasize it. And that's where apologies are important. That's where it is important that we learn to apologize and say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't understand why you reacted that way, but I now understand. I'm sorry, what I did was wrong. That apology is allowing you to be human. It's allowing you to own your own guilt and mitigate against future indiscretions in a relationship so that you acknowledge, listen, I am flawed, I have made a mistake, and I don't want to repeat that same mistake. So I'll be careful as I relate in the future. Tuning in. What is tuning in? Tuning in. So many persons talk about, can I really tune in to my partner? How do I tune in to my partner to know exactly what I need to do, how I need to behave in my partner's presence? There's a word that many persons use at times, and it's called attunement. Attunement is how responsive a person is to another person's emotional moods. How responsive can I be to another person's emotional needs and moods? An attuned person will respond with appropriate language and behavior based on the other person's emotional state, so that I see my partner overwhelmed, I see my partner sad, I need to respond, I need to talk, I need to be able to relate to her based on her emotional need. That's what we call attunement, to be attuned to your partner's need. Now, there's a difference between listening and hearing. You know that. There's a big difference between listening and hearing. Sometimes we listen because we want to respond. And of course, that's actually hearing. Because while you're listening, in a bid to respond, there are two monologues that's going on at the same time. The one that your partner is talking and the one that you are framing in your mind to respond when he or she is finished what they're saying. So you're not really understanding exactly what is being said that your partner is saying to you. We are always hearing, but in listening, the brain perceives information relevant to the subject matter. So that's important, that we not only hear, but we listen so that we can understand, listen with understanding. You know, some of you would have seen, I have never seen it, but I've heard about it, and I would have heard people talk about, have you ever heard about a dog whistle? The dog whistle, the dog alone hears that whistle, but we humans can't hear the dog whistle, but the dog hears it. Why the dog alone can hear that whistle? Because the dog hears a different frequency, and we can't hear that. So the dog hears a different frequency. When we listen to the frequency that is played out in our relationship, when we attune ourselves, then we can respond accurately to our partner's need. And so listening is so important. Behavioral response. Our behavioral response must be congruent with tuning in and listening. Our behavioral response must be congruent or consistent with tuning in and listening. It means that I would have listened, and now that I've heard, I need to act. What do I do? So it's not about listening and just saying, okay, well, that is so. I'm sorry to hear. But there are things that you need to do as you would have listened, as you would have tuned in. Acts of kindness can make a big difference. Doing a kind act or a kind deed, there are reactions that also help you. So this is not about surviving the crisis only, but becoming out of this stronger. How can we grow together? So that I'm listening and I'm responding to you now. Based on what I've heard, I need to do something about it. To improve intimacy, focus on adding positives rather than eliminating negatives. What do I mean by that? Do something positive. You know, sometimes we say, okay, that's what you said. I wouldn't do that again, full stop. But there are things that we need to do based on what we have said. We need to take personal responsibility rather than wait for the other person. Each party, each partner need to realize I need to take personal responsibility for where my relationship and what is happening during this time, and to take that kind of responsibility so that we can be able to grow together. You know, 1 Corinthians 13 teaches us that love is a divine principle. And we need to understand that principle. The principle of love demands that we act appropriately. That's the principle of love. Now, love is different from like, as you know, because you may not like something that your spouse would have done, and that's okay. And there are some points in time you may not even like your spouse. But because you understand God's love for you, and you understand that when you took your vows, it was based on certain principles of love, then it means that you would do what you need to do in this relationship because you love your partner. So your partner may not do something nice to you, or you may not feel happy with what they would have done, but you do love in the deepest way. And so that love brings that kind of commitment to say that I'm going to stay there, we're going to work this out, and we're going to move forward in our relationship. It's a principle. And 1 Corinthians 13 tells us about how love suffers long and is kind. It is not puffed up. It does not behave itself unseemly. It is not easily provoked. It thinketh no evil. Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. And so we need to understand the principles of love in the relationship as we journey together. Under the same roof, stay at home. But eye-to-eye conversations deepen intimacy. I'll say that again. Eye-to-eye conversations deepen intimacy. You talk about having conversations verbally, but you can do it non-verbally as well. So the eye-to-eye conversations are important. Not just communication, conversation. Have you ever tried that? You want to take a minute to try that now? A minute may not be enough. But eye-to-eye conversation, you look into your partner's eyes, and she looks into your eye, you look into her eye, and you talk, and you see if you could communicate what you're saying to each other. Maybe it's something that you can practice, and you can let her say what she thought you were saying, and she would say, you know, and vice versa. But it's all about connecting and reconnecting where that's necessary. Make that eye-to-eye contact. And then when we go to another one, we're talking about calming your physiology. Be gentle with yourself. Practice self-compassion. Relax. That's important. We must tell ourselves, this too shall pass. And the more gentle we become with ourselves, the better we can respond to our significant partner. So if we calm ourselves, if we check and scan our physiology and keep ourselves calm and not edgy and not anxious, not at the edge, if we keep ourselves calm, it's easier to respond appropriately and accurately to your partner. by keeping yourself calm. How do I keep myself calm? Take a walk sometimes. You feel overwhelmed by a situation, take a walk. Maybe take a walk with your partner. And when you take that walk, feel the ground. So it's not just a walk just to clear your hair, the air, but you want to feel the ground that you're walking on. You want to distract yourself from some of the anxieties and the fears that you have. You want to distract yourself from it. So just feel your feet walking on the ground. Be mindful of your walk. So it's not just, well, let me just chill out, but be mindful of your walk. Exercise increases serotonin, a mood elevating hormone, and a change in scenery makes a difference. So that's important that we can take a walk together when the time allows it. Play and have some fun, be in the moment, have some fun. Sometimes we get so caught up in all the things that's happening that we don't take the time to improve our friendship with each other. And that's a basic level of the relationships, friendship. We were once friends, but now things have gotten complex, and now we operate, on the surface level. We were once friends. We shared, we talked, we related to each other. Could we be friends again? Could we just have fun together? Could we just play some Uno and some games together? Just have fun. Be a child again sometimes. That's important in terms of connection, and to be able to rid ourselves from the anxiety that we experience in a crisis. So just be yourself. Sometimes you look at your partner and your partner seems spaced out in another world. Talk to your partner, embrace your partner, be in the moment, be right here, be present, be psychologically present in the moment right away. It's about connection. Try a 10-second kiss. Now, this 10-second kiss, we would have done that on many of our retreats, where you find couples looking to get connection. And the kiss is not just a smack. And that's why we recommend the 10-second kiss, because it's not just a smack when you're leaving and you're going, honey, bye, see you, But 10-second kiss is about connection. It's about getting involved in your partner, with your partner. So 10 seconds is about connection. It's about recreating that time that you can be together, and you can lock yourself together and spend those moments together, embracing each other. That's okay if the kids are around. Let them see mommy and daddy hugging and kissing. That is so important for them to model as well. Plan for sex. Is sex important? Yes, it's important. And notice I put there bold, not just about physical pleasure, because physical pleasure is certainly involved in sex, and it's a very important and integral part. You would agree with me, I imagine, all right? So it's not, but it's not just about physical pleasure. Sex is about connection. It's about the oneness that God had designed for your happiness and for your bonding. It's about that joining together of two persons and creating that connectivity between you two and enjoying the experience that God had designed. Charles Wycherby, he wrote a book, God Invented Sex. And sometimes, we have a negative connotation to sex, but in married life and for the couple, sex is so important for our relationship. And then I want to encourage us for that connection. Well, even before I go there for that slide, you want to, even sometimes when you're having your special time, you want to be able to say, you want to be able to relate to closing the door, locking the door, even though the children are around, you make sure that they're okay, and you close the door, you can lock the door and let them know that mommy and daddy are having their special time. And that's okay. They need to know that, they need to understand that, that you're having your special time, all right? So we want to plan for these things, and it's not just gonna happen just like that. Once a week, we encourage couples to take a night out. 3 to 4 hours away from your kids. That's okay. And sometimes we find that parents find, how could we leave our kids? How we can just leave them like that? It's not fair to them. But I want to say that it's important that the parenting model is a happy, I think the primary parenting model is a happy and stable marriage. I want to say that that is more important than even you're looking at the parenting styles that some people follow. The parenting model of a happy and stable relationship is the primary model as we talk about our children, so that when they see you go out for the night out, they should know and understand that you're improving your relationship. So they may not understand it when they're small, but you know that you become a better parent, a better husband, a better wife for the family. So that time out is so important, right? And then say, I love you. Reaffirm your commitment to your promise to love and to cherish in sickness and in health till death do us part. Reaffirm that commitment to your spouse. Say it. So I'm not talking about the lip service that sometimes people give. Love you, but I love you. Intentional, purposefully, that you tell your partner you love them so that they can just feel that sense of commitment to the ideal of marriage, and they would certainly appreciate you sharing your love for them at any given point in time. All right, this is the end of my presentation. It's about connection, and we want you to have that connection with each other so that you can share in that oneness and that togetherness that God has designed for marriage.
Pastor Santel, we missed the 10-second kiss. So you need to invite them to do it now.
The 10-second kiss.
Yes, they need to do the 10-second kiss.
That is so important.
Before I bring you a question.
Yeah, well, the 10-second kiss, certainly, we do that on retreats, and even though in the privacy of your home, you can still do it. And at the retreat, we tell couples, and I've seen couples raise up their hand in our marriage group. Some persons might be looking from our marriage group, but they raise up their hand and they say 9, 8, 7, and they count down and they take the full 10 seconds. And in the privacy of your home, not among anybody else, you can do the 10-second. I'm not going to put Pastor Samson on the spot right now. But again, it's about connecting.
That would be a pleasurable task now.
A pleasurable task. All right. It's about connecting, and that just allows you not just the smack, not just the peck on the lips and just move on again, but just after a long day, just to connect and to be able to relate to each other in a meaningful way.
Beautiful.
The 10-second kiss.
Thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Pastor St. Hill, for your presentation. It was quite a mouthful, quite a lot to swallow and to digest. But I want to pose one question. I know we are almost out of time, and so we will field just one question that we hope you would answer, maybe within a minute and a half, if you can. That would be so nice. But the question is there such a thing as a stupid question within a marriage, especially when it comes to communicating about different issues within the different stages of a marriage? And if this is a partner's thought pattern, how could couples begin to address this?
Well, first of all, you need to know where your partner is. And that's why communication is important. And if it is that your partner may not understand, Pastor Tobias talked about cognitive and intellectual understanding, that intimacy there. And you would know if you would have said something and your partner didn't connect with that. Then if your partner doesn't understand, that is your duty to to put your partner on the same page with you so that you can understand. Both of you need to understand exactly, because it's difficult to move on when one partner is up in front and the other one is behind, and you need to be on the same page. And it means that you need to take time to share. And whatever time that you take to share, no question is a bad question, is a stupid question. You need to take time, because that's your partner for life. That's the one that God has given you, and you need to work with your partner. There are some things that you wouldn't understand as well, and your partner would certainly want to take time to help you to understand what you don't know, so that we can, we can share with each other the questions that we have, and to be able to explain with each other and be able to respond accurately. I talk about a bridge, moving across a bridge, so that you can understand exactly what you do, how you're coming across to your partner, so that you can respond intelligently to your partner's emotional, deeper needs.
Thank you, Pastor. As I hand you back to Pastor Sampson, to all the couples in the house, I just want to remind you that there is no soul trading in marriage. It is all about partnership. Pastor Sampson,
Beautifully
back
said,
to
Kate.
you.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I know participants, what we have attempted to do this evening, and I trust God that we would have succeeded. We are facing a crisis, and this will not be the only crisis that you will face as a couple. But to every crisis, you can sustain intimacy. And your intimacy, when strengthened, can launch you on the other side of that conflict a whole lot stronger and closer one with the other. What would have been pointed out then, for the whole person to be honestly loved, and I love how the Bible puts it, there has to be this common biblical position taken by both individuals that says submitting yourselves one to another,
Mm-hmm.
where you are consistently attempting to give one message, not two, but one message. I care. I care about me. I care about you. I care about us. You're consistently pursuing that. And what I have gleaned from this evening's experience then is that there has to be a listening, active listening by both partners, where I take the time to attend. I look at my partner's song, my partner words, and I track my partner as it were. Then I acknowledge, I share with my partner what I have seen, what my senses are exposed to. I invite my partner to share his or her story. I want my partner's story to be mine. I don't want my partner's story to be somebody else's story. I want to be my partner's audience then. So I'm inviting my partner to share that story. By the time that story is told and my caring attitude wrapping around that story, my partner's story inadvertently becomes my story. And I could then see how my emotions begin to line up with my partner's emotions. I could see myself being aligned emotionally and being available at that given time. And then comes the behavior. You know, I have concluded, and tell me if I'm wrong, panelists, Dr. Tobias, Sister Shirley, Sheila, and Pastor St. Hill, what I have gleaned from this evening's spread then, if I, during this COVID time, is just simply attempting to get my wife to behave. I want behavioral intimacy without taking time to relate to cognitive intimacy and emotional intimacy. I'm inadvertently abusing my wife, and that is not what intimacy truly is. That is what I have gleaned. Therefore, for me to sustain intimacy between Eugenia and myself, I have to take time with her story. I have to listen to that. I have to share in that. I have to do just that. Make sure I lock in there, cognitive, and then emotionally become involved, and then action can come after that. So it is the let us is the end of the story then. At the end, we have succeeded. We have gone through this trial, as it were. Do you want to respond to that conclusion of mine, whether appropriate or inappropriate? We start with Dr. Tobias, and we just quick responses there before we come to an end.
Well, you are right. You've hit the nail on the head, because unless there's trust and respect at the core level, at the cognitive level, between two broken human beings, sinners, who have been blessed by the grace of God to realize that by the grace of God, even though I'm weak, I can be made strong because His grace is sufficient for me.
Right.
Yes, you can build on whatever you have. God can make something out of nothing. He made a world out of nothing. So whatever you have right now, God can build on that so that the crisis of the COVID-19 pandemic could be a blessing,
yes, sir,
rather than a curse.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc. Sister Sheila.
You are correct, Pastor Thompson. The only way that I can communicate to you that I care is when I understand who you are. It is when I'm in touch with you emotionally. So that if we attempt to become physical with not understanding who the person is, then we will be reading the signals inaccurately, and we would definitely wind up hurting instead of loving. So that you're very correct in that terminology. You know, if we have not connected intimately on a cognitive level, nor on an emotional level, then to be attempting to connect physically will wind up with somebody being hurt.
Okay.
You know, and it is only with the love of God, as Pastor said, it is only with the love of God can we truly understand and appreciate each other and treat each other as broken but valuable vessels.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And final thought from Pastor Cynthia.
If we go into a relationship as marriage, as deep, as endearing as marriage, but we go into that relationship with all the intention that we have to make adjustments, that we have to change, that we have to transform ourselves to meet the needs of our partner, and that's on the cognitive and emotional level. If we go into the marriage without that understanding and you decide I'm not going to change, then you're cheating. You go into marriage and you have decided that's it. I'm a plain shilling. See me for what I am. Take me just as I am. And you don't want to change. You don't intend to change. Then you're cheating. In order to meet the needs, then self-transformation has to take place. Meet the needs of your partner.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Pastor St. Hills, Sister Sheila, and Dr. Tobias for sharing with us this afternoon to go through COVID-19 and to come out still married. Yea, to sustain intimacy during the time of any given crisis. I think we have the tool we can work with now. But you know, each Bible says that all our promises are like ropes of sand. I've discovered that, you know, we may have all those beautiful intentions, and yea, they're coming from the heart. But because our hearts are broken, as Pastor would have pointed out, we need God to do something there. Romans chapter 5 and verse 5 talks about it, that God wants to pour His love into our hearts by the means of the Holy Spirit. And so if we make our hearts available for God to pour His love there, then we can see ourselves loving the way we have been taught this afternoon, to take time with cognitive intimacy, to take time with emotional intimacy before behavioral intimacy. That calls for a kind of divine love to be present. And here we have been exposed to that. I pray, God, that every participant who would have stayed this evening with us would have not only gleaned the information, but have made a covenant with their partner, with God as the witness and the guarantor, that from this day forward, we shall face COVID, and whatever crisis comes, we'll face it together. Together with God, we are more than conquerors. You know, participants, while we get ready for the end of the program, you will see on the screen an evaluation form being popped up. Only 5 questions that you need to quickly answer by ticking one of the appropriate boxes that rightly represents or reflect your opinion. Please do that for us before you leave. But we want to end this, Elder Pastor Dr. Tobias. We want to end this experience because certainly it's only the love of God to wrap us around to go through this one. And I'm asking Pastor Tobias, please, to take us through to the altar of God in prayer, asking God to pour His love in our hearts, that we will not relate to the information given, nor receive them, absorb them, and then move on with it, knowing a life, marriage can be enjoyed, not just simply endured. You can enjoy your marriage with God. Doc, would you please pray for us then?
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we come to you this evening saying thanks. Thanks for the gift of love, the privilege of marriage, and the joy of discovery. This evening, we have had the privilege of walking through this journey of intimacy, cognitive intimacy, emotional intimacy, behavioral intimacy, oh God. And the participants in this beautiful evening seminar have invested time and effort, energy to be here. It must be that they wanted something better for their relationship. And who better to come to than the Lord Jesus Christ, who says that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Grant us your grace so that we will continue to grow in love, in understanding, in trust, in respect for one another, that we will realize that Jesus Christ, despite the Creator, humbled himself, became obedient to death. May we humble ourselves to one another, forgive one another, grow together in love, so that our homes can be a little heaven, where Christ is King of Kings. The husband and wife can be honorable members of God's family, thus enjoying a little heaven on earth before the real heaven. Thanks again for this beautiful evening, Pastor Sampson and the team that planned this event, and may we continue to trust you for more and more blessings from your hand. We thank you for hearing us in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Participants,
Amen.
I leave you with a challenge then. You face COVID-19 and whatever challenge comes, with the intent that you will only transmit one message to your partner. Regardless of what you're going through, you want your partner to get one message. And that message is, I care. I care. Regardless of how upset you are, take time to ensure that you relate to your partner, that at the end, your partner still has the message, I care. Sustain intimacy, mutual trust and respect. Be available, be responsive. I pray that God will bless you guys and bless you in a meaningful way. Thank you for your response. That will serve as a guide as to the next seminar that we may possibly conduct. Until then, God bless you all.
Bye-bye, Sister Sampson.
Bye-bye, Pastor Tobias.
Bye-bye, Sheila, you were good. Pastor St. Hill, you were right up there.
Oh, you, thank you so much.
I'm running to practice the Pastor St. say.
Where?
I'm running to practice what Pastor St. Hill said.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being a part of this.
You're part of it.